Hello everybody, welcome back to Green City, and today we are covering Five Nights at Freddy's 2 because it won the poll against Sonic 3. The next poll is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's 3 because yes, I did just get FNAF 3 Sister Location and Undertale, so expect those games to have videos soon. But today's poll is going to be Five Nights at Freddy's 3 versus Sonic 3. I'll post it on GameJolt, and I will post it on Discord. So now let's get to the video. So me and FNAF 2 have a very, maybe not so much, complicated relationship. FNAF 2 was the first Five Nights at Freddy's game I have ever played back in 2014 or 15, something like that. Back when I had to go and play the FNAF 2 demo because I didn't have any money. I mean, eventually I'd go back and, buy the game eventually, beat the first 5 nights, get the 6th night, spend a couple of months on it, beat everything up to 1020 mode. I mean, like, literally all the presets. It has just been a journey to get to this moment where I'm talking about it in this video. So, with that being said, let us get into the video. Why Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is a good sequel. I feel like I need to make this video because everyone has been slandering FNAF 2 for the past couple of years for it being the worst, despite a notorious YouTuber that I have watched for, well, kind of since like 2021 or 2022, pointed the obvious that FNAF 2 is not the worst because another exists. And while I don't believe that FNAF 2 is the best, even though it's my favorite, it's not the worst, by far. So to you people who are saying FNAF 2 is easily the worst one, you're wrong. And I just got one thing to say to you if you do not like FNAF 2 and say it's the worst. You like Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location. With that being said, let's get on to the story. So obviously there's two different stories that are going on here. You have the main night story, and then you have the minigame story. And obviously you have the dream sections. And I'll just kind of gloss over the dream sections. Basically, they're just, I believe FNAF 2 could have just been Freddy remembering. I mean, I believe there is a theory that FNAF 2's dream sections are the present. I mean, they obviously are the present. But FNAF 2's dream sections are the present. And FNAF 2's gameplay is happening in Freddy's dream. Which, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a theory that exists, and I don't know how to feel towards it, but it would be kind of weird that Withered Freddy is the night guard. Like, just imagine. The theory is called Withered Freddy Night Guard Theory number 1. I don't know, something like that, but I mean, it's a good contender. However, the night sections are just Freddy looking around at the present day, in the FNAF 1 pizzeria, with occasionally either Chica and Bonnie looking at him, or the puppet, or Golden Freddy's gonna be there, something like that. Anyways, let's talk about a theory I have, which is in regard to the minigames. So people like to point out that Golden Freddy is a suit. Why would they like to point that out? Well, because Fazbear Frights told them so, or Tales of the Pizzaplex told them so, or blah 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 the week before, and they use the books as the excuse. Well, newsflash to you guys, for some of you who haven't been in the fandom for long enough, you may not know about the statement that Scott has made on the books. The FNAF books are in their own canons from the games. However, we use the non-canon to help us find the canon. So, yeah, we use the books to find parts of the canon of the games. Like, for example, we got William Afton's, Henry Emily's, Charlotte's, Elizabeth's name through the books. We also got a couple of other things through the books, like the Mimic. However, Scott has pointed out that they aren't canon. I don't care. I do not care. The original trilogy isn't canon. Why? Because Charlotte isn't the puppet. Charlotte's just a robotic teenage girl who was murdered at the young age. Fazbear Frights isn't canon. Why would anyone believe that it's canon? I mean, they literally have Fazgoo. I mean, it just has the weirdest crap in the books, so... I mean, some of the crap is actually kind of a nice concept, like Into the Pit was a pretty nice concept, and I like that story. But non-canon. And Secret of the Mimic, if you want to know Secret of the Mimic, if the original Mimic's origins are canon or not from the Tales of the Pizzaplex books, they aren't. If you've played Secret of the Mimic, then you know the books aren't canon, because the story from Secret of the Mimic and the Mimic's original story in the books are completely different. How each character is handled is different. Like, for example, Edwin and Fiona die different ways, in different places, and in different times. And the game takes place in a different year. But let's get back to Golden Freddy. So Golden Freddy, people believe, is a suit, which I have several pieces of evidence that I can use at my disposal to disprove that Golden Freddy is not, or Golden Freddy is a suit. Alright. So let's talk about how Golden Freddy attacks. Golden Freddy attacks the same way in FNAF 1 for his first attack. He randomly appears in the office, slumped over. So in FNAF 1, it didn't make sense why he would appear in your office. Some people just thought he was an Easter egg at the time, but we know that he's more important if he's going to be appearing in games again. I mean, technically, Golden Freddy has only appeared in, 3 games in the series? Those being FNAF 1, FNAF 2, and UCN. Because for some reason, Scott, besides taking out Bonnie for no reason, also took out Golden Freddy, which for the longest time, I thought Shadow Freddy in the office was Phantom Golden Freddy until there was a video that went through the files of FNAF 1, and it was revealed, or not FNAF 1, well, they went through the files of FNAF 1, 2, and 3, revealing that a couple of things, like Nightmare is Shadow Freddy, that's confirmed, and that suit that I thought was Golden Freddy, a Phantom Golden Freddy, that's actually Shadow Freddy, which everyone has been correct on. That kind of sucks, to be honest, but at least we got a confirmation. So anyways, it didn't make sense for Golden Freddy just to appear in your office in FNAF 1. However, it kind of makes a lot more sense that he appears in FNAF 2. However, why he would get up just to sit down, or sit back down anyways, is just weird. And besides that, when you put your mask down to deal with him, or you flip your camera back up, I believe you flip your camera back up to defend him in one of the ways. Either that, or I'm getting confused with Ultimate Custom Night, where you can do both. But if you flip it down with the mask, you'll see that he begins to fade. The lights don't black out and him disappear, he just fades out. You could possibly say that, oh, why were they gonna do that if Golden Freddy... Or, well, why are they gonna do that if Golden Freddy wasn't in the fence or anything? Simple. It's the same reason why they didn't have a blackout. He could have just, Scott could have just easily made a blackout for Golden Freddy to disappear. But he didn't. He chose deliberately to have him fade away. Number 2, the second thing, his second attack. Now, a lot of people, when talking about Golden Freddy, they usually bring up how he attacks in FNAF 1 and his first attack in FNAF 2. But in FNAF 2, he has 2 different attacks. He has the hallway attack, and your normal attack. The normal attack is where he appears in the office. However, the first attack I just mentioned, which is the hallway attack, he doesn't do this attack often. I mean, I've got him like twice on night 6 where he's done the hallway attack, and that's ended my run because I couldn't see. But he usually does the office attack. However, when he does do the hallway attack, do you notice something? Notice how he's not standing or even sitting, it's just a head? How would an animatronic suit be able to, I don't know, take off its head and float around? It wouldn't be unless if Golden Freddy's not a suit. Number 3. Golden Freddy can't be a suit because the puppet never gave him life. You see, in Give Gifts, Give Life, the puppet goes and gives the animatronics gifts. I mean, it's a pretty well-known fact that Golden Freddy appears after and jump scares you. The puppet never gave him a mask and therefore never giving him life. Therefore, he's not possessed by any animatronics. There's only one thing that I can think of that could refute, or is it refute or is it defute? I believe it's refute. That can refute this entire argument, and it's the drawing that some kid drew of Golden Freddy, I believe either in the prize corner or it was in the office. It's in one of those two assets. So either he was an animatronic, or some kid just somehow had a wild encounter with a wild Golden Freddy. I still believe that he's not a suit, and it would make sense that he isn't a suit. However, I'm not going to say that he's an agony creature, considering we know what the agony creatures, which are Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. I mean, he could be a mix of agony and normal spirit. But wait a minute, there's another thing that I forgot to mention. You might remember the crying child who got bit by Golden Freddy, or not Golden Freddy, Fredbear, who would then go on to possess Golden Freddy, but then there's also the vengeful spirit, Cassidy. A lot of people like to say that Golden Freddy and Cassidy are, well, in the same suit, presented by dual process theory. However, how could that be if he's not a suit? Well, I'm actually not so sure. I mean, then again, FNAF has been hinting at that there's probably a 6th unknown victim, with places like Into the Pit the game, and a couple of other places. I'm thinking Help Wanted 2 in Security Breach, I believe, something like that. And even in the books, which, yes, I know that the books aren't canon, but hey, we use the non-canon to prove the canon. So the only things that I can see that refute it are the Golden Freddy drawing, can be explained. It can be explained, and dual process theory. But that's assuming that dual process theory is right, and that Crying Child even possesses Golden Freddy, because dual process theory has a few holes of its own. I mean, wait a minute. I just had a feeling of something. You know how I just mentioned earlier that Freddy's, or Five Nights at Freddy's, has been hinting at there being a 6th victim? Wait, I don't actually know where I'm going with. Well, the thing is, the 6th victim never got a suit, just like Golden Freddy. So where is he? Do we know? Unfortunately, as of right now, we don't know. But we could use this as a claim that, well, Golden Freddy and Crying Child are not sharing a spirit. Either that, or they're attached to each other, which I don't know how that would happen, and just opens a whole bunch of can of worms, but I still want to believe that Golden Freddy's not a suit. It's just that if dual process theory is true, you cannot believe that Golden Freddy is a suit. And if you believe Golden Freddy is not a suit, you cannot believe in dual process theory, unless if someone created a theory called dual ghost theory, where the crying child and the vengeful spirits are both attached to each other. However, let's just move on right now because it's kind of frying my brain. Anyways, we get to the mini games. We're gonna go through them in canon order, or not canon order, timeline order. The first one would be take cake to the children, because obviously it's the puppet getting murdered. Play as Freddy in an early Freddy's location, and she gets murdered in before probably 1985, at latest 1985. Next, you have, it could either, it's implied. No, it's not implied. Next would probably be Foxy Go Go Go. Oh yeah, here's the thing. Foxy Go 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 and what is it? And Foxy Go 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 and Give Gifts Give Life could be interpreted in two different ways. You could either see them as being, well, two separate killings, which, you know, would add up to 15. Or you could see them being the same as, well, the MCI. They could both be interpretations of the MCI, being beforehand and Give Gifts Give Life being after. However, there is a plot hole with William never leaves the MCI open. The only interpretation that leaves the MCI open is Into the Pit William, aka Pit Trap. The main William never does that. So this could be interpreted as a different set of children. I actually do not know what to think about this, so I'm just gonna put this after, or I'm gonna put Foxy Go 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 before Give Gifts Give Life. And then Give Gifts Give Life, where the puppet obviously gives gifts to the children, where they possess, and where we talked about Golden Freddy. And then we have the final minigame in said timeline before the game takes place, which is obviously one of the most lore relevant ones in the series, that being Save Them. Now, Save Them is a little bit controversial. When people talk about Save Them in FNAF, they usually like to point out a couple of things like, oh, I don't know, Freddy's moving, Puppet's moving, and Mangle's obviously alive, and Golden Freddy can appear, and there's a random chance for you to get killed by the purple guy. However, some people just like to forget about the DCI children. Like, when people talk about FNAF, like, I mean, the series in general, and they talk about the lore, I mean, game theorists have done this at some point, I'm sure of, where they've said, oh, they've only talked about the MCI, even though we know that the MCI is not the only murder Athens committed. I mean, we have the DCI right here, the Dead Children's Incident. And when people do mention the DCI, they like to mention that the DCI children never haunted anything. That the MCI children were the only ones haunting the toys, which I do have a problem with. Scott wouldn't just put another set of dead kids in there just for the fun of it. One, that'd be totally messed up. Two, what would it have anything to do with the lore of the series? Why would he just add another set of dead kids for it just to be nothing? That's my problem with people saying that the MCI children also possess the toys, when it just doesn't feel right and it just doesn't look right. To me, and probably most people, or to me and probably some people, the DCI children still possess the toys. And it kind of makes sense. Like, how would uh, the MCI children be possessing the toys? And then you have the argument of, oh, the metal. However, we're all depending on this when it takes place. People like to say, oh, this happens on like night 4 or 5. When I don't think that happens on night 4 or 5. I think that this happens the week before TM. I think William murdered these children the week before. And this time he didn't stuff them, he left them out. Obviously, would cause an investigation. The only problem is, Phone Guy mentions this investigation night 4, and the problem is that these messages, they either could or they couldn't be pre-recorded. My take is that they aren't pre-recorded. I mean, some people's arguments is the fact that he uses summer job, but the thing is, where Scott is from, summer job is interchangeable with temporary job or part-time job. So what could Phone Guy be mentioning to? I actually don't know. I have no idea. Maybe Phone Guy's talking about that they've reopened the investigation. But then again, he would probably have said reopening. And Phone Guy in this game is like the same guy who said, who's got a couple of things wrong in both this game and the other game that he's appeared in. I mean, besides After, obviously, but we haven't gotten there. But that's all I have to say about the minigames. And the story, well, let's talk about the main story for a bit. For a little bit, because I believe I already mentioned the whole Jeremy night guard thing. Night 1 through 6. Night 7, you play as Fritz Smith. The bite of 87 happens on either the day of night 7 or after night 7. It's never clue, but everyone believes Jeremy got bit, and that kind of makes sense. That makes sense. I can see it because it makes sense. And people like to believe that Fritz is Mike, yet we don't have any crucial evidence to believe that he is Mike. Fritz could just be his own character, and for all we know, he could be Mike. So it's still definitely an open debate if Fritz is his own character, if he's Mike. I definitely believe that Fritz is Mike, in my opinion. But I'm open to hearing why Fritz can't be Mike, though. However, a hot topic is who committed the bite of 87. So, we know it can't be the toys. The toys just have small mouths. Can't be Freddy. He has too small of a mouth to bite someone. Can't be Bonnie. Those hinges probably wouldn't go back that far. Nor Toy Chica could have done it. I mean, she does have the line in Ultimate Custom Night, but it's talking about lodging her beak in her forehead, not biting it. It can't be Bonnie because he literally does not have a face. It could be Chica, could be Freddy. They do have wider jaws, and Chica's jaw is broken, however, so maybe not Chica. However, the week before likes to say that Foxy's never bitten any kids before, implying that he bit an adult. However, I do have a problem with the conclusion of Foxy committing the bite of 87. It just wouldn't make sense. If Foxy committed the bite of 87, it means he would have had to be out of the parts and service room and active during the day for the bite of 87 to be committed by him. And we know that he couldn't have been out by the day or in the parts of service, considering that they probably would have had the door locked. 2, the animatronics. The animatronics, they seem that the Fazbear Company has never had a problem with them walking out. 3, they're withered, why would they be out in the first place? Unless if the guard was going into the parts and service room. I mean, we never got a good clue on where it took place. I mean, for all we know, it could have taken place at the parts and service room, and then that could be explained. However, the best contender, and as right now, the only contender, or the only good one that makes full logical sense, is Mangle, considering that her jaw is also broken like Foxy. It's also wide like Foxy. And unlike Foxy, she's has her own cove. It just makes a little too much sense. Anyways, after said bite, we never hear of Jeremy again. But there is clues based off of FNAF 1 that he might have survived. But he also could have died. We never hear the name Jeremy again, besides, Jeremy and Fritz, the missing kids. But Jeremy could have survived. That's a whole nother theory, is if Jeremy survived or not. We don't know because we've been given no evidence or no clues about who Jeremy was or what happened to Jeremy after FNAF 2. They just kind of drop his... Well, they don't drop him necessarily, but they do not really mention him. Okay, with the story out of the way and some theories, we should be able to move on to the gameplay loop, which is how and why people are saying it's a bad game. Listen, this can't be a bad gameplay loop. I mean, it literally isn't that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. If you wanted to point out bad gameplay loop in a FNAF game, then just point to Sister Location. Sister Location has no gameplay loop, really. And the replayability value is just not there. But that's for its own video when I go play Sister Location. However, when you play FNAF 2, you can go back and play it instantly on repeat again and again and again. Because, well, it's just the same loop. And unlike Sister Location, there is no really spiked difficult curve until it has to come. So let's talk about the nights and the gameplay and the animatronics. So, night 1, we were introduced to Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Chica. And they introduced you the mask mechanic, where you put the mask on. They also introduce you to the music box. I will say that the music box must have to be one of the worst ideas that the series ever created. I mean, we went through, almost every camera was useful. I mean, FNAF has a problem with the camera mechanics, considering that FNAF 1, for either night 6, for the whole game, you can literally just stall Freddy on the show stage, you can. Even with 720 mode, you can stall him on the show stage, but it's recommended that you put your camera on 4B. So really, you never have to move and look at other cameras. All you gotta do is just keep them up, and at least looking at the show stage or 4B. And when you're looking at 4B, I mean, you better stay selected, because obviously you'll die to Freddy if you don't. And FNAF 2 has the same problem with the first game, where you really only need to have your camera on one, and yes, I mean one camera, and that's camera 11, obviously, because that's the music box. I mean, FNAF 3 would kind of perfect it a little bit. I mean, FNAF 3 is its own separate can of worms, where it got a couple things wrong that the first 2 games have gotten right. But FNAF 3 is a good example on how to do cameras. Springtrap has a free roam AI, and his AI is more complex than the other ones. And he can basically free roam the entire building. He can go up, down, left, and right. He literally has different poses on different cameras. He can go into vents if he wants to. But it's all depending on his AI and his aggressive meter. But you have to look for him in that game, because the game is dependent on audio alerts. This game is dependent that you use a mask, a flashlight, and the music box. And I know that people don't like the find the thing on the camera thing, on the camera mechanic, but I think that this game would have benefited with some sort of mechanic like that. Like, oh, maybe put the music box on like different cameras. Like, oh, you have to go find the music box cameras from anywhere from cam 11 to like, I don't know, cam 8. So that leaves 8, 9, 10, and 11 to be open for possible music box where you have to find them there. And first players would have to search, first time players of this new FNAF game would have had to, actively look for it, considering that they would have to go find it every time you open the cameras. But maybe that wouldn't be that good of a mechanic, but it could have really benefited to have some sort of mechanics on a couple different cameras, or some sort of animatronic that you would have to find and then keep tabs on his location at all times, but I guess not. And Toy Freddy, Toy Bonnie, Toy Chica are, well, they're mask animatronics, but they are classified into their own group of animatronics. Toy Bonnie, or let's not start with Toy Bonnie. Let's start with Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy is a office animatronic, and Toy Chica is a vent animatronic, and Toy Bonnie is technically an office animatronic. What I mean by this, and why they're classified as this, is depending if they have a blackout animation. Toy Chica was supposed to be an office animatronic, and was supposed to have a blackout animation. However, due to a glitch in the game, it never appears. However, Scott did manage to get it to work in Ultimate Custom Night, where she becomes an office animatronic. However, since she doesn't have the office animation working, and it never appears in game, well, she's a vent animatronic. And Toy Bonnie, by technically having, well, Toy Bonnie has one. Even though Toy Bonnie is in the vent, he counts as an office animatronic since he comes out of the vent and does the blackout animation. Anyways, you also have the puppet that's introduced on this night, but the music box can never go down until I believe 2 a.m., I think. 2 a.m. is when the music box will start to go down. Let's talk about how long these nights are. It's a little bit of improvement, but it's nowhere near what the nights should be. I mean, later FNAF games like FNAF 3 and FNAF 4 would make it to where a night is exactly 6 minutes long, which is great, obviously. A minute should be 1 in-game hour, which I don't know why Scott didn't come up with it in the original game. The original game's minute system, or hour system, was the whole night was 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Which, if you didn't know, that's a glitch. The game was supposed to be 10 minutes long per night, for people who didn't know. FNAF 1's nights were supposed to be 10 minutes off, but due to something that happens in the Click Team engine, it takes about a second off each night. No, not a second off each night. It takes about a couple of seconds off each hour of the game, which ends up becoming 8 minutes and 55 seconds, when it was supposed to originally be 10 minutes. FNAF 2 would be a little more controlled. The nights go in for about 6 minutes, 48 seconds, something like that's like 7 minutes. I believe FNAF 2's nights are like 7 minutes, which is better than having to deal with 8-minute nights. However, it's nowhere perfect that it could be. And obviously with other modes like 10, 20, it's obviously going to stress us out a lot. Anyways, with the nights explained, let's go to night 2. So, night 2 introduces 1 new animatronic. Actually, I'm wrong. It introduces 3 new animatronics. Which is funny, because I just noticed that this game... Well, never mind. What I was about to say is that this game likes to introduce animatronics into 3s. But I guess I'm wrong, since Night 1 likes to introduce 4. Dang it, Puppet, only if you would come later, or never come at all. Well, it's better to have the puppet than not have the puppet, I guess. But, I mean, besides the point, they kind of do like introducing characters in 3s, despite first night. Night 2, we get introduced to Mangle, Balloon Boy, and Foxy. And can you guess which one that we absolutely hate the most out of? If you said Balloon Boy, then you're right. Because, oh my gosh, is he annoying on night 6 and 7. Let's start with the way that the animatronic starts. What am I saying? Let's start with how the animatronics start usually. So we'll continue where we left off, and we'll go to Mangle. Mangle is... What is she? I'll say that she's a mix, some sort of hybrid of vent and office animatronic. Why do I say this? When she doesn't have a blackout. 1, obviously she doesn't have a blackout. However, 2, if you let her into your office, she will hang from the office instead of just straight up killing you. I don't know if to count that as office or vent, but I'm just going to call it some sort of office vent hybrid, so she's an off vent animatronic. Balloon Boy is a vent animatronic. He works the same way, and you gotta repel him with your mask. The one thing I will say about Mangle before I get to Balloon Boy, how he works differently, is that for Mangle, all you need to hear is her playing the audio from the right vent, and you don't even have to check the vent. If you hear the audio in your office, just put on the mask, she'll be gone soon. And I mean, it's kind of the same for Balloon Boy, we'll get to that. So, if Balloon Boy ever gets to your office, which he will, and you mistakenly, well, either you mistakenly, or you, not even you, or the computer that you're playing on for some reason, or whatever surface you're playing on, for some reason, flicks you in a weird direction. Like, there was some point in my playthrough that I was trying to get to the camera, but it made me put on the mask and then go back to the cameras, and then mask and cameras like twice in a row. Or trying to get to the music box, and Balloon Boy got into my office because of that. So basically what he does is he becomes a nuisance, and he steals your sweet, succulent AA batteries, which, you guessed it, prevents you from dealing with Foxy. Man, do I hate this kid. However, there is an easy way to track him. Like how Mangle has audio when she enters the vent, there's actually signs to tell when Balloon Boy and where Balloon Boy is, even though he only appears on like 3 cameras. Yeah, 3 cameras. So basically, you know how when Balloon Boy moves, he laughs? Well, Balloon Boy will laugh 3 times before he gets to your blind spot. And he'll laugh 4 times when he's at your blind spot, where you had to flash the lights. So, if you hear Balloon Boy laugh once, or say hello once, or hi, meaning he just moved. If you hear it a second time, means he moved again. If you hear it a third time, you should be hearing a vent noise that's paired with it, and he should be in your vent, and you hear it a 4th time, then you should be hearing a vent noise with it, and you should be able to see him in your blind spot. So, if you're a pro like me and you've been counting how many times the Balloon Boy has laughed, you could count 4 times and put on the mask and he'll be gone. And now let's get to the last different animatronic. I mean, the other ones were different. Withered Foxy, the other really unique one. he basically works like this. Foxy has a D variable in his code, and if that D variable is set to 0, you die, I believe. And if it's 1, you'll still live. But either that or it's the other way around. I don't remember, but you have to flash him with your flashlight. That's the only reason why the flashlight exists. I mean, it's cool to see the animatronics in the hallways, but the only reason the flashlight exists is because of Foxy. Maybe we should have gotten like 1 or 2 other characters that could be flashed with the flashlight, and that wouldn't make the flashlight kind of useless. That's kind of the last thing for FNAF 2 Night 2. Night 3, we get the last batch of 3 characters, technically, because there are a couple of 3 characters that, I mean, they're references, but you also gotta call them Freddy, but... So the last 3 characters are, well, I don't know. They're the Withered animatronics. They're the rest of the Withereds. So, Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie, Withered Chica. They're all office animatronics because they have blackout animations. Withered Bonnie is just Toy Freddy where he moves down the hall. Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica move down their corresponding vents. And it's literally just the same side as they usually go for FNAF 1. So Bonnie moves on the left, and Chica moves on the right. Unlike Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica, where Toy Bonnie will move on the right, and Toy Chica will move on the left. But that's probably kind of to distinguish them from their toy counterparts. But, however, unlike the toy animatronics and Balloon Boy and Mangle, they will never appear in your vent blind spot. They will instantly go from your main vent to your office, where they're the only people who will force down your people. They're the only animatronics, the Withereds, Withered Freddy, Withered Bonnie, Withered Chica, are the only animatronics that will force down your monitor to do a blackout. Withered Bonnie won't. He'll force down your monitor to do a jump scare. Same with Withered Chica, Withered Foxy, all of them. Besides Toy Freddy. Toy Freddy's the only toy that will force down your monitor to do a blackout animation. Which is weird that Withered Bonnie doesn't do it, because he's the only blackout animation animatronic that doesn't do that. Anyways, Night 4 is just a harder version of Night 3, and Night 5 is just a harder version of Night 4. And then you have a couple of other characters I'm going to talk about quickly. You have RFXQ, which is just Shadow Bonnie. He can appear in your office, but it's extremely rare to get him. I think he's more rare than Shadow Freddy. And you have 4 seconds. I think it was flip up the camera. Either that or to put on the mask for him to go away, or he'll crash your game if you stare at him for like 4 seconds. And the other one is Shadow Freddy, who can appear in the back rooms, the private part room. The parts and service room. However, you can only see him in nights 1 through 6, considering once you get to night 7, for like the whole custom night, the screen will be blacked out, so you'll never see him on night 7. Which, strangely enough, I didn't know that the show stage was also blacked out in custom night. I thought it was only the parts and service room, but apparently show stage is also blacked out. I actually never knew that. However, Shadow Freddy does the same thing as Shadow Bonnie, except he has more of a chance to appear. And I've actually gotten Shadow Freddy multiple times. Well, I've gotten Shadow Freddy once. I've never gotten Shadow Bonnie, actually. But I have gotten Shadow Freddy once. And it works the same. If you stare at him for too long, then he'll crash your game. And then, obviously we already talked about Golden Freddy, which I still gotta talk about when he appears, like which nights. So you probably already know this, in that the main game that he can appear. I mean, he can never appear on night 1. Let's just get it straight. He will never appear on night 1. There is code saying that he cannot appear on night 1, with his AI always being 0 night 1. However, nights 2 through 5, he can appear, but it's very, very, very rare for him to appear. It's like a 1 in like 100,000th chance or something like that for him to appear, or 1 in 1,000th. However, night 2, there's a bug in its code that makes it more possible for him to appear in night 2. So night 2, you could see Golden Freddy in night 2 more likely than on nights 3 through 5. However, where he becomes not so rare is night 6. Night 6 is when, well, he's turned up, and you can actually see him kind of frequently. Like, he'll appear like once, twice, thrice, maybe 4 times if you're lucky throughout the night. But it's mostly once, twice, or thrice. And night 7, depending on your settings, he'll either never appear or he'll almost always appear. I think that's it with characters. Night 6 is just a very hard night 5. And as for night 7, well, I've got a confession to make. I've only beaten everything up to Golden Freddy mode. Except I didn't record any of these. However, I do have proof that I did beat them, because I did post images of me beating the custom night presets. Golden Freddy mode, I actually never beat. The hardest mode I've ever beaten was Fazbear Fever, which is 1010. Golden Freddy mode just too obnoxious to complete, and I do not have a lot of time to try Golden Freddy mode. Maybe in the future I'll try and beat it, but as for now, it stands uncompleted. However, for custom night, there are presets this time, which is something Sister Location's custom night would take too seriously and make the whole game preset night instead of custom night, because you can't customize the animatronics in Sister Location custom night. From what I've seen, you can only choose the presets, so it's just challenge night instead of an actual custom night. So what is the main idea of this video? This idea is supposed to tell you why I think it's good, but as of right then, I just explained the whole lore and gameplay stuff. Why do I think it's good? Well, it comes to simply, the design from the first game comes back. I mean, we don't get to see the red and white and black checkered again until FNAF 3. But the designs come back, and they're pretty good. The office decals and assets, the building decals and assets look pretty good. And I just gotta say, these new designs are bangers. The toy animatronics are obviously your standard animatronics, and they look pretty good. Mangle exists and looks a little bit terrifying. Not terrifying, but a little bit scary. And with Mangle, they actually took the chance to make some cool angles with Mangle. Some of the cool ones are, well, that I'd like to say, are your hall sprites, because Mangle does have different hall sprites, and your office sprites. I will say my favorite Mangle sprite is the office sprite, because that just looks cool. Whether Freddy is just a kind of a copy of sorry, backwards. Golden Freddy is just kind of copied of Withered, and Shadow Freddy's obviously just a copy of Golden Freddy again. Shadow Bonnie's just obviously a copy of Golden Bonnie, or Golden Bonnie, Toy Bonnie. However, let's talk about the best designs in the game here. The best designs are the Withered design, and I feel like that's been said before. Listen, we'll go by worst design to best design. So in dead last, we have Withered Chica. Chica may have lost her hands and broke her face, but the poses she just does they're just T-poses. I mean, this was before Fortnite, and she's already doing T-poses. Like, come on. None of these poses are scary. Or not that scary, at least. And the jump scares, okay. It's okay. Next, we have Withered... which one? I don't know. I'm having trouble placing Withered... the next Withered animatronics. I like to say Withered Freddy, actually. Withered Freddy's design is actually creepy, and I do like his Withered design. Even though when I was... like, probably like 10... I was like, why does Freddy look different? Only to realize now, well, not even now, but like years ago, that they were different designs. My second favorite is Withered Foxy. He does look kind of creepy. However, he only gets like 3 poses in the game, and that's hallway and the 2 backroom poses, which honestly, there's a chance, by the way, I forgot to tell this, but some people do not know this, that when all the animatronics leave, and this can only happen on nights 1 through 6, I believe, either that or nights 1 through 5, because remember the parts and service room camera becomes blocked on night 7. If all the animatronics have left the parts and service room, and either Withered Foxy stayed, or he comes back into the parts and service room, there is not even a chance, it's a guaranteed. If you go onto the parts and service camera, you can see Foxy standing there in literally the coolest pose ever. Like, that is some terrifying. Why are you standing at that? Like, bro, did you just... Like, what? And then you have my absolute favorite, Withered Bonnie. Not only does he look terrifying, but what did they do to bro? They took away his face. They took away his arms. Heck, not even Foxy had to go through this much when he was withered in Five Nights at Freddy's 1. But they just straight up beat him. And now he's going to beat you if you let him into the office. And also, he has some of the coolest poses, too. And, of course, Withered Bonnie's design is great. Well, because it just is. And no, you cannot convince me that Withered Bonnie isn't purple. Because, one, not only is he purpled, not only is he purple in FNAF 1 and in FNAF 2's renders, and yes, you could be arguing lighting. If you go and play FNAF World, he's purple, I believe. Heck, I believe in other adaptations. Like, for example, FNAF 4, he's purple. He's purple. The only places where he's blue, and I can see that he's blue, is obviously Toy Bonnie and Bon Bon. But, yeah, the designs are cool. I mean, FNAF 2's story is cool. It adds on to the first game by saying, hey, there wasn't just these 5 kids, there was also another set of kids. And it shows us somewhat how the FNAF animatronics got possessed. And it kind of just shows a lot in story, and it expands on it. It even shows us somewhat the killer. And it shows us some cool things that will... probably not see for a little bit. I mean, we haven't had death minigames since FNAF 2. I mean, we've had minigames, but not death minigames. They should bring these back. And obviously, I like the cool little Easter eggs: the Shadow Bonnie, Shadow Freddy, the Endo Easter egg, which I forgot about. Which, from what I've heard, is that the Shadow Freddy and Endoskeleton have a unused mechanic where if you look at them, they're supposed to run. And by the way, Endo can appear in the vent and in the prize corner, which is a cool callback to FNAF 1, where the Endoskeleton can look at you. It's just so cool. This game is cool. I like the new mechanics in the office, how they didn't repeat last time with the doors. When the designs plus how the game looks is combined with the story, it's pretty dang good. And the gameplay's okay. I mean, combined with that and the gameplay, I mean, the designs and the story and the cool little Easter eggs makes the gameplay a little bit better, but I do wish the gameplay was better. I mean, the gameplay, it has the base of the FNAF 1 gameplay, which is good gameplay. It's good gameplay loop. However, what they added to it, it's okay. They should definitely expand upon it in the future. Like, I like the whole mask gimmick. I like the flashlights, but something that they could have done better is what they did in Pizza Sim. Have the light be on your mouse. And also the other thing that they should do is, like what they did in FNAF 4, when you go to the doors, they should have it to where you have to manually turn on your flashlight. And I think, in my opinion, they should have had the mechanic where you could turn on and turn off your flashlight. I mean, what's it gonna hurt? It's gonna make it better. You don't have to use control for the middle hallway, and all you gotta do is click on the vent, click on the middle hallway, click on the right hallway. Click and hold, I should say, because as soon as you unhold it, it's not gonna be, playing anymore. And I do know how Click Team Fusion works. Somewhat. Not somewhat, because I am a game dev, so... And I use Click Team Fusion, so I do know how Click Team works. But I also don't know some stuff in Click Team Fusion. So I don't know if you could have done that. You probably could have. But I just wish it was that instead of, using control. I'm just glad it wasn't shift. Because if it was shift, I would have had a really bad time. I mean, I believe there is a FNAF fan game that makes you use shift for something. And if I have to hear sticky keys sound, then your game is automatically not getting a good ranking with me. But he used control, so it's safe, but it's not that good, honestly. So should have just used the mouse. Could have used mouse controls for the lights. And as for the cameras, I mean, you could literally either add a camera button into the interface of the cameras, or you could have just did the same thing as The Office. As for the music box, I've already explained, it's not the best idea only to have to manually, and the only camera required is the 11th camera, so why is this? Why is it? Why is it that we only get, that we only get, one camera that we have to look at? Something that, in my opinion, that I think the Five Nights at Freddy's Legacy Edition did correctly, by the way, I haven't played that game, I have seen people play it, is that, from what it looks like, is that you have to use your camera for all the characters. Something that FNAF could learn a thing or two from. Five Nights at Freddy's 2's cameras are kind of worse than FNAF 1's cameras, based on the gameplay loop, because you only really have to do one camera in FNAF 2, where if you were a new player in FNAF 1, you would, when you got to night 2, you would probably check up on Foxy and go, Foxy, and you probably didn't know that, oh, you would have to be on show stage, or that you could be in show stage or 4B. As for night 7, 4B or show stage would be the correct one. I mean, you could use either or. I mean, for Freddy, you could use any camera to stall him, so really, it's up to you with Freddy. But for FNAF 2, there's nothing like that where you can stall anyone. I mean, you can stall the withered animatronics with the lights, which is cool, but it doesn't stop them. Like I wish someone at least had the stalling mechanic. Like, with the lights. Or not with the lights, with just viewing them. And obviously, I'm going to criticize one other thing here, is that sometimes it'll seem like you die for no reason, when that's far from the truth. When you thought Withered Foxy wasn't there, when you saw Toy Chica and died to Withered Foxy, well, Withered Foxy was there. It's just he was, what is it called? It overrided Toy Chica to show, or it overrided Withered Foxy to show Toy Chica, which is how you could die to Foxy. I'd say that FNAF 2 is ambitious a little, or ambitious, because they definitely decided to do that hallway mechanic, which multiple characters are going to be going through. I understand why Scott didn't put multiple interactions of the same scene, because it would probably get tedious. But I do think that Foxy should have had more frames. Like, for example, Foxy has his main frame with him in the hallway by himself, and he also has the Mangle frames and the Withered Bonnie frames. But I think he should get more frames, like with obviously Withered Chica, or Withered Chica, normal Chica. Who's the other character? Withered Bonnie, or not Withered Bonnie? Withered Freddy and Toy Freddy. And I think, in my opinion, that Chica, Withered Chica, and the other animatronics that don't get interactions in the hallway that have to move through there should have gotten them. But hey, it's not that bad. It's actually kind of neat, because you'll never know where some of those characters are, with the exception of Balloon Boy, who you'll hear. But despite the gameplay, I don't actually find FNAF 2 to be all that bad. I actually find it as my favorite game, and actually, if I were to rank it unbiasedly, I'd put it pretty close to the top. Obviously not the top, but pretty close. So, with the gameplay combined with the story that expands it so greatly from the first game, and the banger new designs with the banger new office and cameras, Scott cooked with this one. Not gonna lie, he cooked so hard that this is my favorite game. FNAF 2 is my favorite game, and I'm not ashamed to say it. And I'm tired of pretending that it is a bad game, because it's not. If you wanted to point into bad games, there were a couple of games that I could have shown. Obviously, a security breach, and the worst offender being Sister Location. But, however, if you disagree with me, come point it out in the comments below. State your reasons why you think FNAF 2 is a bad game. And also, if you have something to say about the theory, about the Golden Freddy theory of not being a stew, state it down in the comments. However, please stay for a little bit longer, as I'm going to be announcing something right now. So, with October coming on Wednesday. And we all know the Spooky Fest that it's coming. I think it's time that I do a, well, Greenosity Spooktober or something like that, name's still pending, where I do horror games and I read horror stories. Like, for example, the beginning of the month I read a horror story, and the end of the month I read a horror story. However, also adding 2 horror games and maybe covering an iceberg video. I mean, how neat would that be? And plus, you would still get your normal Greenosity upload. Like, for example, the poll is FNAF 3 versus Sonic 3. So if FNAF 3 wins, you would get all horror this month, and if Sonic 3 wins, you would get your normal Greenosity upload, plus your 2 horror uploads for that month. And the contestants for this month, for this horror month, are obviously, I mean, FNAF 3 with, Sonic 3, but you also have Giggleland, which, honestly, I don't know if my computer can handle Giggleland, so if I cover Giggleland, I'll use people's footage, but I'll talk about the whole ARG. I'm talking about Act 1 and Act 2, because, well, we haven't gotten Act 3 yet, and we know that Act 2 has already finished up. So I'll cover Act 1 and Act 2 of Giggleland, unless if, like, Act 3 comes out, like, right before the video or right before I record, then I'll wait for Act 3 to be finished. And then we have DDLC, which I have played before. I've beaten the game. I mean, obviously, it's a visual novel game. Who can't beat visual novels? And it just recently turned 8, so maybe I should cover them. But those are the contestants for the horror ones. If you want those games to be covered, then, well, put it in the comments. Whichever one gets more in the comments will be covered first, and the other one will be coming second. And if no one comments, then I just won't do it, I guess. I don't know. Oh yeah, and if you want me guys to play and upload custom night video footage, like, for example, me beating 1020, which I have never done yet, but if you ever want footage or video of me beating 1020, get this video to 100 likes, and I'll go back and I'll play 1020 and beat it. Or I'll try to, at least. And I just have 2 more things to say. The first one is for the horror stories. If you want to send me horror stories that I can cover for the first week of October plus the final week of October, send them to me at the Gmail pinned in the description, and if you want, I'll give you credit, and if you want to remain anonymous, I'll let you remain anonymous. And finally, if you like this video, subscribe and share it to friends. If you don't subscribe and don't share it, then I'll do nothing, because I can't legally do anything to you. After all, I'm just the man behind the screen. Jokes aside, thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. Whatever you're doing, I hope it is great. See you guys on the flip side. And goodbye.